What's up, gente? What's up, Raza? I just want to do a quick update on this illegal war, and I want to make sure that we know why we must stand against it. And when I'm talking about we, I'm talking about people, people from marginalized communities, those of us who call ourselves Chicanos and Chicanas, those of us who believe in justice. And if you use the word revolutionary, obviously, let's make sure that we stick to these principles of standing against wars, not just whatever wars. I'm talking about unjust wars like the ones we're watching happen right now under the current leader. So heads up, everybody. This is again a war of convenience for the rich to get things out of the headlines, including a poor economy here in the United States of America and in other countries, but specifically here. It's a war of convenience because the Epstein files, people know that who's at the top of that list. It's a war of convenience because rich people are just going to get rich, and they make money from wars. They need wars. Without wars, their stocks, their bonds, and their investments into whatever they got, wherever they got their money, doesn't give them a return. And for them, they can't live like that, so they'll start a war to stay in business and to continue getting rich. So it's a war of convenience. It's also a war of convenience for Israel. The state of Israel is convenient because they've always wanted a war. Bibi Netanyahu, the prime minister, just the other day said he's been waiting for this for 40 years. 40 years he's been hoping for this war. He finally got it. And he's sitting there bragging about this war and how he finally got it. And so keep that in mind. It's a war convenience for the wealthy, the powerful, and the elite. They got nothing to lose. This is also a war of distraction. I mentioned that in a previous video. A distraction not just from a poor economy, a poor, showing in the Epstein files, a poor showing in the elections that recently took place, primaries. So it's basically meant to get people's mind off of certain things here at home. That's always the case because people react to their economics, their pocketbook. They react to the money that they should believe they should have more money, more gas, more everything, because after all they pay taxes. After all, this is also why a lot of these Trump voters, Latinos for Trump, and these other uh, call 'em uninformed or idiotic people, or straight up just stupid because they know the truth and they refuse to believe the truth. They want more money in their pockets. So they voted for Trump for that reason. And now they're realizing that's not what's happening. So it's a war distraction. It's a war convenience for the wealthy. And it's not the only war happening, by the way. It's just the greater war, right? We still are waiting to see what happens in Cuba and other places. We're waiting to see what happens in other countries because I think they got cards to the pool there. China hasn't said anything, not much. They're an ally to Iran, and so hasn't Russia said. I would say enough. They made some, gestures, but that's about it. We'll get to that later. So it's a war of convenience for the rich and powerful. And they've always done this. World War I, World War II, Vietnam, you name it. Those wars didn't have to happen. Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan, all those didn't have to happen, but they did. So where do we as raza, where do us people who follow this, who know about these civil rights movements, the Chicano movement, where should we stand on this? And my answer is simple. We should stand against these wars, all these wars, any war that's launched by the United States of America. Oftentimes, a lot of these warring parties are on the same side for a long time. They're built up by each other, right? Now, Iran is a different case. If you know the history of Iran, 1953, the U.S. overthrew a democratically elected government. 1979, the people got rid of that dictatorship, who was a puppet government, and they brought in the Ayatollah, the first Ayatollah. This was the second one, and they were trying to fight for self determination. But oftentimes, when you look at places like in Israel, where they're going up against Hamas, Hamas was created by Israel as a way to divide and conquer the people. Here in the United States of America, why do you think we got Latinos for Trump? Why do you think you got Chicanos for Trump? Anybody calling himself Chicano and Trump? They are confused. Number one, they don't really know the history of Chicano. They don't really know the meaning of Chicano. They're either trying to be provocative for clicks or views, attention, or they just straight up are confused. They shouldn't call themselves Chicano. But we've got people that've been on each side of the colonizer, whether it was when Hernando Cortez came and divided the Aztecs in 1519. He divided the Aztecs, the Mexican nation. He divided the people, the indigenous people. He knew that there was differences there. Or whether it be in the 1600s when the Pilgrims came, again they divided the native tribal groups were already here, or whether it was in 1492 with Christopher Columbus. No matter where you look at a colonizer landing, whether it was here in the Americas or in Africa or Asia, no matter where on this planet the colonizer planted their flag, the one thing they did was divide and conquer. They divide and conquered the people. That way they are fighting each other and not them, the conqueror or colonizer. And they go on to steal all the wealth, they steal all the resources. And that's also what's happening right now. The United States is hoping that they can divide the people in Iran, hoping that they can continue to divide the people in Cuba, and hoping that they could use economics, a stranglehold where people aren't getting their food, their water, their medication, where people are constantly being bombarded with bombs. And being divided up to the point where people would just give in, close down, tune out. That is known to happen so often, and it's a military strategy that works. Sometimes either they pay people off, or they just fund people, death squads, for example, in Latin America and parts of Latin America where they had all these death squads going around killing people, leaders, union leaders, Catholic priests during their sermons, or even nuns, as was the case in Latin America, right? They've done some horrific things under what's called the Central Intelligence Agency, or CIA. Under the CIA, they were busted doing so many dirty things. And the CIA, unfortunately, has what's called black ops. They got money and unlimited money to do as they please. That's why also the CIA is not allowed to operate within the United States of America. By law, they cannot operate within these borders, because what do they have that others don't, other agencies don't? They have the license to kill. Think about that, people. They have the license to kill. And so right now, that's something that's going on in the Middle East. That's something that's happening in Iran. Behind the scenes, they're dividing the people, they're paying people off, and they're definitely trying to get their people in there. So don't fall for the hype, gente. War is wrong. War is bad, no matter what way. If it's in self-defense, obviously, that's a whole different story. Sometimes when you have to defend yourself, you have to defend yourself. But to go out and invade a sovereign country, to kill 165 little girls in a school and not admit to it, to take pleasure and joy, as the president has been doing, talking about these are exciting times. Those were his exact words during a war. A president who's so disconnected, he's showing off curtains in the White House instead of talking about dead soldiers. That's the kind of leadership we're talking about. That's the ugly, horrific people leading these wars, including the president of the United States here in the United States, uh, the president and the Congress who has no backbone. You've heard me rant about that, including the Democratic Party who has no backbone. You've got no opposition. So basically, we got a dictator ourselves here, a so-called authoritarian, right? Wannabe authoritarian. And we have to stand up against these wars. So we have one last war I want to talk about, because I haven't taken my eye off of it, and nor will I for a long time. We got a thing called ICE here. We got a thing called ICE where they're going around and they are still arresting people. They're going around and they are still snatching people off the street or at work. Now they're doing it quietly. They've been embarrassed. They've been exposed. They made so many mistakes that they've been embarrassed by what they did here. We've got our own secret Nazi police going around, Gestapo, going around and basically mimicking Adolf Hitler and the Nazis. And we've got to continue to stand against that. Stand against ICE, continue to stand against police brutality, because that is exactly what's happening to a lot of us who are brown, indigenous, immigrant, undocumented here in this country. And so I wanted to bring this to your attention. This war that was started a couple of days ago by Donald Trump is an illegal war. It's a war of convenience for the rich and wealthy, and it's also a distraction from what's happening here in the United States, from the poor economy to the Epstein files that haven't been released, to the continued war by ICE against our gente. So hang in there, people. Be strong. Pay attention to the news. Continue to stay. I know it's a lot, but continue to stay informed, because without that information, you'll be ignorant and won't really know what's happening. And we can't afford that at a time when we're trying to fight back. We got to know what we're standing up against and why.